video I'm going to talk about autumn colours because things are really moving on. And last night the clocks went back an hour, so I'll get even less time at night to do any sort of videoing really. But I'm going to look through the garden and look at some of the autumn colours that are going on at the moment. So we're at the end of October, nearly into November, and there are a few plants, grasses, trees, shrubs, etc. that are beginning to show good autumn colour. So I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth about why this sort of thing happens. And usually through the year, most plants are covered in a green colour. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. And it's called chlorophyll. And that's what covers the leaves. So you mainly get the greens. Then what happens with that is that photosynthesizes. So basically it makes the food for the plant. So that in turn produces sugars for energy. And what we have is we have chemicals hidden by the green chlorophyll. So I'm not going to get too technical, but I want to explain a little bit about it. Now this is a panicum, and this panicum, and lots of panicums actually, in fact almost all the panicums and lots of millennias go into yellow autumn colours, and this is a chemical that's called flavanol that does that. So that's just what it is. I can't explain no more than that. I'm not a scientist, I can't explain that in fully, but I do know these basics. Now the orangey ones that we see, this would be a good example actually. This is a little miscanthus, and it's a little miscanthus called Sinensis China. And this has got some orange and yellows in it. And the oranges are created by what we call carotenoides, or carotenoids. And then this rhus is also showing those sort of colours. And that's what causes them. Now we also get some deeper purple looking colours, and I'm trying to think and scratch my head as to whether I've actually got anything like that in the garden. This does do it to a degree. The purples are called anthocyanins, and that's just another chemical that's been hid by the chlorophyll. Now what makes a good autumn? What makes poor autumn? So what triggers these sort of colours? Well, usually it's short days and cold days, but the best ones are with a warm, dry Indian summer followed by colder nights really. That's what creates the best autumn colours. So there you go, that's a basic explanation as to what creates them. So we'll just run back through the colours. So the yellows are a chemical called flavanols, the orange is carotenoides, and then the purples are anthocyanins. And I will put all those up on screen so you can check them out yourself. Make sure you're listening. So I'll go through the garden and we'll have a look at different plants that I've got, different grasses. So as I've said, this is a Rhus glabra lanceolata, and there's a Rhus typhina, what also has a good show, and they do produce absolutely wonderful autumn colours. And another good one is one called Tiger Eyes. Now Tiger Eyes is more orangey yellow all the time, all through the year. It starts off green and then changes its colours. All Rhuses are spreading shrubs. They send up suckers. So if you buy them, you need to be very mindful of that. We can show you one here. This very branch here, if you trace it back down to there, that's suckered out. Now I'm going to remove these and produce new plants off of those. And the best time, as I've said in another video, is once the leaves drop and it's really gone cold. So that's a really nice plant to have. So bear in mind that this one gets to about anywhere between 8 and 12, maybe 15 foot, this one. And then Rhus typhina, in fact, we can show you the neighbours. They've got one right on the corner of the building, and that's more oranges, and that's a more mature shrub up there that you can see, and that's just typhina, so Rhus typhina. So as I explained earlier, that most panicums do lots of yellowing, and this particular one that I've got here, and I've split it into 1, 2, 3. They're quite easy to split. I split it into about 4 or 5 plants, and this one's called Thundercloud. And again, it does a wonderful autumn show. As you can see, it's exciting. But it only produces these little seed heads, and it's probably one of the reasons it's not so popular. What I like about this one is that it does have this upright form, and when autumn kicks in, it gives you that wonderful show. So we'll wander around the garden. I'll take a slow walk through, see what's going on. But this is mainly to show you autumn colours. So this is a miscanthus here, and this has been moved recently because it was too close to the fence. So I've moved it there, and this is a miscanthus sinensis, and it's called Professor Richard Hanson, and it's taken on some yellow leaves, which a lot of them do. A lot of the miscanthus have these yellow leaves. They're quite nice. They look good at this time of year. And it has its usual type of seed head, but don't forget, lots of miscanthus have this type of seed head, but they're all different types. So by that I mean flowing, spread, tall, skinny, endless types of seed heads. But a lot of them do have nice autumn colours. So we're wandering to the Calforster border, and Calamagrostis acutiflora calforster should really be included in autumn colours, and I'm going to include it because I think it's worth mentioning, because it has this colour throughout autumn and into spring when we have to cut them back. Nevertheless, it's good. So technically it's not got any colour in, they're simply the dead seed heads, but they look really effective. This is a sorbus, and lots of sorbus have wonderful autumn colours, and this is no exception. This is a commixter type that produces lovely orange leaves, and they are a bit spotty close up, but they do turn into this lovely orange throughout as time goes on. Now this is still a young plant, so we're not going to find many of them on there, but as I say, as time passes by, that's going to get bigger and it's going to produce a fantastic show. So they produce orange leaves, but it's not fully there yet. Now I'm going to bring this to your attention as well. Although technically, again, not a wonderful vibrant colour, these eupatoriums, and this one is glut produce this kind of look at this time of year. And it is quite interesting really, because it has like a yellow in the leaf. Obviously it's changing now, going into its autumn colours, so it's losing all its chlorophyll. And it's turning into these pale green, and they go through all different phases. In fact, let's try and get one watch side lit by the sun. There, just through there, you can see the sun going through that one, and that's a bright green. Well, it is to me at the minute. And it has all different colours within, and it has this deep reddish purple stem to it, which is really nice and really effective at this time of year. And then them set against these seed heads look wonderful. So this one isn't so obvious a plant to have for colour in autumn, but nevertheless it produces this type of look, which in itself is very, very interesting indeed. So that's a good one to include. Now again, I'm going to come back to these, and these are euphorbias, and these produce, although not colours, a lot of them, or a lot of the Wolfenii types, tend to go this nicer, sort of deep green shade, or a bluer shade, depending on the type. Some go bluer than others, and some do produce purple tips, like purple and gold. So this is Miscanthus sinensis memory, and it is producing all the yellow tones again. And that'll look really effective as we get further into autumn. Those seed heads will fluff up more and produce a really nice look. And just below it, we've got this. We've got Hackernacloa. Now, most Hackernacloas, they can be yellows or whatever, but they all tend to go back to yellow at the end of the season. And they're just starting to show signs on these ones. We've got some browns in there as well, but generally they go yellow, the whole lot of them. Now, I suspect, like my hostas, most people's hostas, unless they're throwing loads of slug pellets down on them, are looking pretty much like this. And this time of year, I just let the slugs and snails get on with it and have a feast at the end. But what it does do is it spoils the show, because these do go this lovely, these ones are producing a golden yellow colour. Generally, all hostas produce some sort of a yellow colour. I don't tend to keep these once they've gone past a certain phase, because what they tend to do is just rot away. so I tend to clear them up at that stage. They become very, very wet, claggy and slimy, and then I just remove them, ready for next year's show. So we're a bit too early for this particular plant, and this one's called Lithrum, and it's a really nice one. All Lithrums have a lovely show, so they all go sort of a yellowy orange colour, which is a really nice attribute for them to have. In fact, we can look further down. There you go. So this one's got some reds in it as well, but they do eventually turn yellow. That's a nice look. So although these haven't got any particular autumn colours at the moment, they are beginning the show, and they take on these sort of colours. And these are miscanthus. So miscanthuses go through different phases: reds, oranges and yellows generally. And they look really good. And this is Miscanthus sinensis Poseidon. And at the moment, it's the seed heads that are giving us the autumn show, rather than the leaves themselves. They're not far enough on. Now, this one's had several mentions as it's gone through. So I have to be very mindful about catching these things at the right time. And I've done several videos with this one because it can be gone before you know it. So I have to continually film it. And now it's through another phase. Most of the leaves are virtually dead now, gone. They've lost a lot of the yellow colour. It's more brown than yellow. And now the stems seem to have an almost pink tinge to them now. And that's a Melinia called Les Ponts de Say, which is a very good one. In fact, it's excellent. Here we have some more dishevelled hostas. As I said, I just leave them alone. I don't bother. What's the point? I mean, it looks terrible, and I wish the slugs and snails would leave them alone, but often they don't, so we get that kind of look. But the yellows look quite nice in autumn. Now, this grass here I've shown you several times, and this one has a really nice leaf almost from the start. This is Miscanthus sinensis Ghana, and it's a very small growing one. So it has that colour all the time, but not quite as good as it is now because it is going into autumn. So that's looking really nice. That's another good autumn colour. In fact, while I'm here, let's show you the Lithrum again, because it seems to be getting better lit from this side. So you can see it's actually standing out as more reds at the moment, and that will go into yellows eventually. And that's a Lithrum virgatum, and that's really nice. So we'll take a wander up here and we'll go to this. Now, this is Euphorbia, and this is the one that I was searching for quite some time, and one that I suspected was the parent of Malachi, my own Malachi, or one of the parents of Malachi. And what this one does, which Malachi also does, is it starts producing, and you can just see it now, a purpley red tip to the ends of the leaves, and that will go within that section, and it'll do them on them all eventually. All those little whorls of leaves, they'll all produce it in the end. And I really like this one. But what this one doesn't have is the blue leaves of Malachi. Malachi produces some really strong blue leaves as the cold weather comes in, and it tends to then show the tips as purple, which is a bit better than just the standard purple and gold. And I think, I'm not sure whether you can really pick it up in there. It's not clear enough just yet, but you can probably just see tinges of the purple or the reds in there. It's also got a lovely blue leaf to it, which purple and gold doesn't have. So that is quite nice, and we're expecting that to go into its purple colours anytime soon. So this is Eupatorium and my own Skinny Mini, and this also has a nice end to the season and can be classed as autumn colours. It's really nice. And a lot of people would just take that down, cut it down, but you should leave these things because they're very invaluable for insects and things like those that are going to benefit from you leaving them alone. The leaves will drop away, it'll have stalks, the seed heads will blow away, and I'll be finding lots of seedlings around which I will remove, take out as I come across them, and then that'll be that. So next to them we've got this one here. And again, these types, these Phalictrums, this is Phalictrum Ann, these do produce yellow leaves. And the more leaves they have, obviously, the better the show. And I've got another panicum here in the garden, not quite there yet. It's on its way to doing it. So hopefully that'll be okay. Now this is Miscanthus, and it's one called Miscanthus sinensis Beth Chatto, and it always has this lovely orangey finish to the year. And browns actually within it, which look quite nice. The brown looks quite effective, especially against the... I've just noticed that the stalks tend to have that brown look as well. They don't always. Some have a pale brown colour, and then some have almost red stems, actually. That one doesn't. It has more of a brown one. Maybe that's what might look so interesting. If you're looking for a small to medium Miscanthus, that's good. Get hold of that. It's a lot more elegant than a lot of the Miscanthus. Now this is another Hackanachoa, and this one's Macra. So it's the straight green one, but this will go a blaze of yellow eventually. A little bit early for the Hackanachoas, but you can see it's turning. That was quite a deep green as summer came in, but now it's turning to the yellow tones that I'm used to seeing at this time of year. It's looking good, looking great. Next to it, this is my Miscanthus that's still on trial, and I need to lift this because we've found lots of little grasses that I always moan about every time I do these videos. I come and look at it, but I will eventually get them out. And you can see it's starting to produce oranges, and it usually produces some wonderful orange and red tones, which is why I really liked it as well. So not only does it have small, quite deep red seed heads, it also has lovely leaf colour. Last year was better than this year, but I expect if we get a cold snap now that will really turn very quickly, hopefully, and prove to be a really nice grass. Now this one never fails to impress, and it's a Melinia. The Melinias are good grasses to get if you really haven't got any experience with grasses and you don't want all the hassle of looking after them. A Melinia can be planted, and by mid to late November, all of those stems will simply shatter, fall to the floor, and you just simply collect them up. And the leaves will as well. But this particular Melinia is called Windsowl, and it has this lovely butty yellow stalk to it. And it is pretty amazing, especially when it's lit by the sun, as it is at the moment on parts of it anyway. That's looking really nice. So this got moved. This is a Eupatorium. It's Skinny Mini, and I moved it because it needed to be moved at the time, and I moved it here. So what that does is it makes it go into an early dormancy. And this is what I can expect to see with all the other Eupatoriums as the season moves on. This is what they'll end up looking like, and then eventually, over time, all the seed heads will blow away and disappear, and it'll be left with this, what we call skeletal look. And it's really nice. I really like it. So that's what they're going to end up looking like. So this is another Sorbus, and this is one called Sorbus, and it's an Occuparia, and it's called Autumn Spire, and it usually has a lot better leaf colours than this. It tends to have a lot of purples in the leaf on this one. I was thinking what purple ones I had earlier, and this would fit that classification, but this year it doesn't seem to be doing it. But they have deep reds, oranges, and then they fade into bright oranges eventually over time. So that's really, really nice. We'll go and look at the other one, because I can see the other one's laden with berries, absolutely, and it does look good. And they always have lots of berries, these types. All Sorbus do. And if you're looking for something for wildlife in your garden, that's the one to get, because they always produce lots of berries. Now, bizarrely, the birds tend to pick them in a sort of some colour combination. The reds tend to go first, and then they start going through all the different colours before finally picking on the whites. But they all have different colours. This particular one, again, is Sorbus Autumn Spire, and actually this one's got some more redder tones in it. Looking at it, you can see that redder, purple, then orangey into yellows it'll eventually go. And it really is a nice one to have, because it keeps this shape without much effort. Now and again you might have to go in and just take off one of the branches that seems to be shooting left or right and seems to be sprawling, and I go in quite early in spring and nip out what I don't want in there. So that's the sorbus, and it really is a nice one to get for your garden. If you've got a small garden, perfect choice. I do have other sorbuses, but there's not any really showing at the moment. In fact, there's one down there, bit of a sorry state actually. About there, you can just make it out. Leaves have dropped already. That's getting moved. It's in the wrong place. It's not happy there. It's not liking it. So it will be moved. Now I mentioned about the Amsonia before, and it's that one there in the middle of the picture. And that one's Ernst Pagels. And it'll go the brightest yellow you can imagine. It's not done it yet. Again, I said we're a bit early for some of them, but we have to video on a constant regime really, because I need to show you them at these points. Now behind that euphorbia there is another euphorbia, and you can see it's going yellow, different type altogether, and that's the mash euphorbia. And it's taking on pinkish stems inside, as you can see, so they're really effective against the yellows. And that will die right down to the ground eventually through winter. So a little zoom around for you. You can see that Malinia up there in the pot in Frankenbin. Boop, 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 boop. That one is looking superb, and next to the Miscanthus as well. It looks absolutely stunning. So here's another Malinia. Now this Malinia is called Silver Veil, and this is a Pete Udolph one discovery that came from the very man himself via Dove Cottage Nurseries, and it is absolutely fantastic, this one. And they call it Silver Veil because the seeds, I assume this is why they call it Silver Veil, the seed heads are silver. It has the typical yellowing in its stems, and that is effective. That's really nice, and they do stand out quite a lot from wherever you stand in the garden. Okay, now this is an Acer. It's called Trompenborg. Now that is a deep reddy purple through summer, and I've had a major problem with it. Something went wrong in the summer and I don't know what it was. I think I've spilt something down there, or there's something in the soil it does not like, because it was perfect in spring when all the leaves first came out, but towards the back end it started getting horrible coloured leaves. But they seem to be okay at the moment. It's not really dying, and it is starting to produce its autumn colours. It's a lot paler than it was. So that is looking nice. In fact, see if we can get close to that one at the back. That leaf there is the one that it should all look like. It should have that lovely look. But it hasn't at the moment. Something wrong. Further investigations, I feel, are necessary. Nothing really here to write home about. Nothing with interesting colours, all but the hydrangea. That's the climbing one. Petioralis, and all the leaves will turn yellow before they finally fall away. So this is a quercifolia. It's hydrangea quercifolia burgundy, and it has the most wonderful burgundy leaves once they turn. They started turning a month back, but now we're getting to this stage, and it does really does require a cold snap to really send these leaves into burgundy. And they'll look fantastic at that stage, and then they'll just simply fall off. But that is a really nice small to medium sized shrub, I would say. That'll do well in any shady area. Does require a bit of sun to get that burgundy going. Now just behind it we've got this one here, and this is called Acer Baihu, and it has this yellow leaf as opposed to pinks, reds, purples, whatever. It tends to have this yellow one, and it's still a baby, so we can't expect too much of it at the moment. But I think over time that's going to stand out quite well once it gets into a more mature specimen, and it is not that at the moment. You can see, what's that, 2.5 foot. It's doing well because it was literally 2 twigs when I got it, so it's doing okay. So let's move to the back here, to this one. And I've been singing its praises ever since I got it off my friend. I paid a pretty penny for it. And it is falling, or appears to be falling, which is actually the attribute I bought it for, because I wanted that. I wanted it to look like it was falling, and he didn't want it because it was kind of in a pot that kept falling over because he didn't keep it straight. Now I love that, so I've set it like that. Now it doesn't fall over. It's doing well. I have to be careful because once that gets really big, that might end up snapping itself, but we'll deal with that problem if we do get to it. But this had some deep purple leaves, and now you can see they're going into a brighter red, and they look fantastic. And this kind of catches your eye as you walk down the driveway. It does stand out quite well, especially with the yellow behind it. So if you see the two together like that, that looks really nice. And I like looking at them. And then to carry the show on, you can see the Millennia behind them. And the other border, and the owl border, looking really, really nice and swaying away in these lovely gentle breezes. Now I don't know what this Acer is. Don't have a clue, because my friend typically doesn't have the label. I think I've named it before, and I shall look back on those videos to see what I named it. But it's a palmatum type and a dissectum type. But I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I will send this off to someone like Hippopottering and see if they can ID it for me. Okay, so this is one of the heavenly bamboos, and it does go into some lovely autumn colours, and it go bright red. It's just beginning now. I will have to look up the name of this one because I actually rescued this one. So I don't know its name, to be honest with you. But if we look at these leaves here, you can see that they're more red, and the whole plant goes red. And it's a lovely little shrub. It doesn't get very big at all. So that's nice. Like it. I'll zip over to this border. Now this isn't there yet. I will show another video on this one. This is the colour at the moment. It's just green, as most of them are. But it turns the most orangey orange, if that's an expression, that anyone turns. And it's trying, it's beginning to change. But when it does turn, it will be really vibrant, bright orange. There are some leaves up here again, trying to do the same thing. Look, it just needs a bit of time, it'll get there. And then we have more miscanthus. And that's a little bit further on. I've moved that recently, so it's not looking great at the minute, I must admit. See, we've got a sanguisorba, Acusinensis lilac squirrel, that's trying to hang on to its colours. But I fear they won't be there much longer. Now this is a nice little shrub, and this, I say it's little, it can get to 4, 5, 6 foot, this shrub, over time, and it can have equally the same spread. And this is a Euonymus alatus compactus. And look at that colour. And a month and a half ago, they were just green. But now look at them, look at that colour. And this is another standout colour. Looks wonderful. That's looking good at the minute. That's looking absolutely wonderful. It's doing ever so well. I wasn't expecting that to do very well at all. And it has more of a bluey grey colour to that, and it does well. The colder it gets, it will go that better colour, but it doesn't like the cold, so I fear that will go. Okay, so I've saved the best till last. Oh, actually, no. Let's scrub that. Keep it in the film, though, people. We've got this one, which is another sinensis, Miscanthus sinensis, called Samurai. Beautiful coloured leaves as well. And then we have this one, which is a Pinus. It's called Pinus contorta Chief Joseph. And it does produce a lovely bright yellow eventually. It was green a month ago. Now it's going into this wonderful colouring. So let's go back. As I said a few minutes ago, we've saved you the best till last at the moment. And here it is, it's one of the aces. And this is one of the aces that does produce more purpley colours, purpley tones, but very early and for a very short time. Although you can't see that, there's purple tones in that, with deep reds, oranges going into yellows. And it is absolutely superb. The colours, and multitudes of colours, are fantastic. I've seen bigger versions of this in other people's gardens, and I cannot wait for this to get bigger. It's getting taller. I've had to do some pruning as it's got going because we've moved this one to this property from another one. And where I grew it the last time, it wasn't in the right place, so I had to clip some of the branches off to keep it in check. But now, it's looking wonderful. There you go, look at the colours on that. It is a stunner. And that is absolutely wonderful. Aces, they're all good for it. And remember I said they drop their leaves very, very quickly once they've gone through this colour. So that is a really nice one. If you can get hold of that one, get it, because it is fantastic for autumn colour. And I've always liked the leaf shapes in it. Best by a mile in this garden at the minute, or the best autumn colour by a mile in this garden at the moment. So there you go. A little look at the autumn colours up at Grassy Bottom. And it's looking superb. I suspect we're going to get a lot more better colours as the nights shorten even more and as the cold kicks in. I'll try and do another video, but as I said earlier, I've got less and less time to do these sort of things now. It's only really weekends I can get back to this. But who knows, I may do. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!